Carrots have gotten practically synonymous with the shading orange, yet carrots didn't generally have this particular tint. Initially, carrots were really purple, however a freak quality spread among these plants prompted the formation of the yellow carrot. The progress from the collecting of purple and yellow carrots to orange carrots is an unusual and intriguing story. The root of orange carrots started in the town of Ajaccio in southern France. The old-style way to express this town was orange, and with the French word for orange being narange, the residents of Ajaccio inevitably changed the town's name to Orange. A man named William the Silent picked up rule over Orange in 1544 and was from that point on known as William the Orange. Subsequent to picking up rule of Ajaccio, William the Orange proceeded to lead the Dutch to their autonomy from Spain, along these lines making the Dutch Republic. At a similar time as this upheaval, another upset was occurring. A carrot upset. Around the hour of the Dutch autonomy, a carrot breed was made by Dutch carrot ranchers that contained a plant shade called beta-carotene. This shade caused an orange shading in the carrot, and the Danish individuals started mass creating it to pay tribute to their legend William the Orange. It arrived at where different shades of carrots turned into not, at this point helpful to develop, which drove us to the orange carrot that we know and love. Of the considerable number of nuts on this rundown, cashews have maybe the most odd attribute of all. When asked what develops on a cashew tree, most would likely expect that it would be, well, cashews. In spite of the fact that that is right, the nut is really not the essential product of a cashew tree. Local to the beachfront territories of northern Brazil, cashew trees really develop apples. The real nuts grow from the base of every apple. A large portion of us have probably never known about a cashew apple, or seen them being sold anyplace. This is on the grounds that, however they are superbly protected, the tough skin of cashew apples make them hard to ship. Cashew apples don't go to squander however, the mash is habitually utilized in juices and other apple-related nourishments. Much all the more astonishing is the way that the cashew nut is in fact not a nut by any means, however a seed. The cashew seed is secured by numerous exceptionally harmful layers so as to drive creatures off. Try not to freeze, however, on the grounds that alone the shell is lethal. Any pack of cashews purchased from a store won't have the shell, therefore making them splendidly okay for utilization. The rhubarb is a lasting plant that is like celery, yet it is generally delegated a natural product because of its acrid and fruity taste. Stuck in the middle of these two classifications, the rhubarb is by all accounts to some degree disregarded in the public arena, with the more customary apple or broccoli push into the spotlight. Nonetheless, there is an interesting wonder that happens with the unassuming rhubarb plant, and it has to do with how it is developed. Since the 1800s, rhubarb ranchers have collected these veggie/organic products in a technique called constrained rhubarb. In this strategy, rhubarbs are developed in obscurity, which makes them develop at an alarmingly fast rate. At the point when rhubarbs develop this quick, it makes them make a noisy popping clamor as they burst out of their underlying buds and start to become upward. As they keep on rising, they start to rub against other rhubarb stalks, which makes an intriguing squeaking and squeaking commotion. Rhubarb rancher Brian French says about the clamor, "I have heard the commotion previously. Developing against one another. You truly need to tune in for it." The explanation for this melodic technique for rhubarb developing is that the dim room makes rhubarb plants unfit to photosynthesize, which brings about a not so much stringy but rather more delicate rhubarb. You can tune into the sound of rhubarb becoming here. With a fourth of the total populace eating bean stew peppers every day, obviously numerous individuals appreciate the shock of hotness that has become the trademark of these peppers. While individuals around the globe have decided to grasp the stew pepper and feel the consume, hardly any individuals have halted to ponder the reason for this sensation in any case. All bean stew peppers contain a functioning fixing called capsaicin, which initiates the warmth-detecting protein in our cerebrums when chomped into. At the point when the protein detects heat, it makes the cerebrum send a fix of consuming torment to the pepper eater. This implies peppers are fooling our cerebrums into feeling a consuming sensation since we won't really be scorched from eating a pepper. Researchers have confirmed that pepper plants really developed along these lines so as to shield predators from eating their organic product. Strikingly, winged animals don't feel any consume when eating peppers, and peppers really developed along these lines deliberately. This is on the grounds that, dissimilar to warm-blooded animals, fowls eat pepper seeds entire, so when they discharge these seeds, they spread the pepper plant and guarantee its endurance. There is regularly a scarcely discernible difference between a nourishment being half-cooked, overcooked or cooked to flawlessness. Fortunately, for those of us who can only with significant effort explore this line, there is one hazard-free fixing that we can utilize: the mushroom. It is near difficult to overcook a mushroom in light of the fact that their cell dividers have an unexpected subatomic structure in comparison to that of meat or vegetables. While the phone dividers in meat and vegetables contain protein and gelatin separately, the mushroom contains a polymer called chitin. Chitin is amazingly heat-stable, which implies that when it is cooked, the warmth has little impact on the subatomic structure of the mushroom. This is not quite the same as meats and different veggies, since heat makes proteins in the meat worry, causing overcooked meat to be chewy, and it makes gelatins in vegetable cells separate, bringing about a soft cluster of green. In an endeavor to deductively demonstrate this wonder, Dan Souza, the official supervisor of America's Test Kitchen, put mushrooms under serious scrutiny for the last time. Souza took a mushroom, a bit of zucchini, and a hunk of meat tenderloin, and steamed them just for 40 minutes. At regular intervals he put everything through a surface investigation that determined the measure of power that would be required to chomp into the said thing. As anyone might expect, the mushroom beat its rivals by staying inside 100 grams of power to nibble into all through the entire testing time frame. In examination, the tenderloin shot up 500 grams of power and the zucchini went down right around 200. At the end of the day, the mushroom remained texturally predictable while the tenderloin got intense and the zucchini got limp and chewy. Nutmeg is a flavor most regularly utilized around the special seasons, as a sweet trimming to drinks or a fixing in treats. Be that as it may, much the same as the pistachio, there is a dim mystery behind this bubbly flavor. This is on the grounds that nutmeg is actually a drug, fit for causing incredible highs and terrible symptoms. Abrupt eruptions of frenzy, inconvenience, peeing, and continually dry mouth are only a couple of results of the stimulating excursion. Nutmeg itself is really a seed, and it contains a compound known as myristicin. Myristicin is utilized in numerous medications that are utilized to influence mental state, and it is the motivation behind why nutmeg produces stimulating effects. Though this may stun we all, it wouldn't have amazed anybody in 12th century Europe. In those days, it was viewed as a medication as opposed to a trimming, and individuals would utilize it often so as to initiate mental trips. It is even accepted that renowned Dr. Nostradamus ingested nutmeg so as to pick up dreams that prompted his logical revelations. Nutmeg stayed a well-known medication for a considerable length of time to come, however incidentally its status moved into the guiltless flavor we know it as today. Pistachios may appear to be sufficiently honest, however much to our dismay that they have an evil side. That is on the grounds that pistachios, when put away in enormous amounts, are at high danger of precipitously combusting. Fat consumes effectively, and every pistachio nut is about half fat. Moreover, pistachios have basically no water in them, and on the off chance that they are kept in a high dampness territory, at that point they become rotten. With their absolute non-appearance of water and a high grouping of fat, pistachios are in danger of getting combustible. This hazard transforms into reality when pistachios are pressed near one another in huge sums, as the oils of the nuts can warm themselves up, making them burst into blazes. Since they can self-heat, this pistachio-filled bad dream can happen with no notice, with no human contact. This has prompted numerous exacting rules with regards to how pistachios are delivered, as the vast majority of the world pistachio creation originates from the Middle East. This implies ships are required for transport, and no one needs to see a vessel torch from inappropriately bundled nuts. Corn has been around for a large number of years, yet few understand that each ear of corn has a one-of-a-kind similitude about it. It's just plain obvious, corn will consistently have a much number of columns. This is because of the way that a corn ear isn't only a vegetable, however an inflorescence, implying that it delivers almost 1,000 female blossoms. These blossoms, also called the future portions, will be requested into columns, shaping the normal picture of an ear of corn. A normal ear of corn has 800 portions, composed into 16 columns. The much number originates from the way that every spikelet, fundamental grass blossom, will deliver 2 florets, which are the little blossoms that make up a full bloom head. It will create 2 since one floret must be ripe while the other must be sterile. Strikingly, this applies to nourishments other than corn. Watermelon, for instance, evidently has a reliably significantly number of stripes. Regardless of the case, this stems, no play on words proposed, from the way that a cell will consistently isolate into 2 cells that thusly each partition into 2 additional cells. As this cycle proceeds, the number will consistently remain even. No one would think to contrast a customary cranberry and a famous kid's toy, however there is an astonishing similitude between the two. In spite of the fact that normally cooked and mollified so as to lessen the common pungency of the natural product, a crude cranberry has a totally different surface. At the point when ready, it will have the option to bob in a similar manner as a fun ball. This is because of the little air pockets within every cranberry, just as the firm surface that permits it to ricochet up off the ground. Actually, cranberry ranchers even utilize this as a readiness test for their berries. It is regular for berry ranchers to skip every cranberry over a wooden obstruction, where the berries that resemble the hindrance will go into dissemination, while the ones that don't, go into isolated canisters to become juice. Strangely, this was found coincidentally, when an old rancher from New Jersey known as John Peg Leg Webb poured his stock of cranberries down the stairs. Because of his wooden leg, this was his best strategy for moving them. Notwithstanding, he saw that the more firm cranberries would skip to the base, while the milder and increasingly battered berries would sit flaccidly at the highest point of the staircase. This disclosure occurred in 1880, and ranchers have been utilizing energy to test cranberry readiness from that point forward. Any individual who has ever had a compartment of nuts has accidentally seen a peculiar impact that no researcher has had the option to completely clarify. In about each bundle of nuts, the Brazil nuts will show up at the top, with the littler nuts at the base. The equivalent applies to grain, with all the biggest oat at the highest point of the container and only dusty shreds right at the base. Basic information discloses to us that bigger nuts would sink to the base, with littler nuts ascending to the top. All things considered, no one very knows. Named the Brazil nut effect, however more expertly known as granular convection, this wonders has baffled specialists for a considerable length of time. The idea alludes to when different bits of little, comparative mass articles turn in a path like how liquids move. The procedure a bundle of nuts experiences to get from the manufacturing plant to the hands of a buyer requires heaps of jostling. When the nuts are completely pushed upward, the littler ones will fall beneath the bigger ones, pushing them upward. This will rehash in a cycle in light of the fact that the nuts are constantly shaken around. Nonetheless, the Brazil nut effect gives a slight wrinkle to this rationale. It's obvious. The Brazil nuts will arrive at the highest point of the compartment and simply remain there, along these lines finishing the cycle. Researchers aren't sure why they can't move from their situation on top. Obviously, numerous hypotheses have been introduced. Maybe the nuts are too huge to fit into any littler spaces in the compartment after that shake, or maybe the thickness of the nuts assume a job in pushing it towards the surface. In any case, the science has applications past this nutty issue. Dr. Douglas J. Gerald-Mack and his group have even discovered a connection between this marvel and the motivation behind why streams can oppose disintegration, since waterways also have bigger shakes close to the top with sand and rock further down in the stream. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.